Chapter 49 of Jin Ping Mei Chongzhen edition of Embroidered Portraits. Please bend your body to pray for honor. Encounter monk who appears to give medicine. The poem says, there are no guests in the elegant gathering, and it is difficult to reconcile with each other. One statue is full of wisdom, and 8 buckets are good at chanting. When the words come, they are like a rising sun, and when frost comes, they are afraid of not being cold. For the sake of the king, he begged, and Chuanqi brought a meal in the clouds. After Jia Shi returned home and replied, Jia Tixing immediately came to thank Simon King and said, Sir, the grace of survival is not due to the great power of Yu Guang. How great! Simon King said with a smile, Sir, don't worry. I don't think you and I have done anything wrong. Just let him go. I have a clear idea. While setting a table in the hall for dinner, we talked and laughed until late. And then we said our goodbyes and went home. The next day, he still joined the Yemen as a director, no problem. However, when Zhang Gong, the patrol supervisor, saw that Ben could not go up, he knew that the 2 officials were taking care of him, and he was very angry, because there were many errors in the 7 matters stated by Grand Master Kai, all of which were harmful to the lower and better to the higher. He went to the capital to see the court to answer his orders and get a seal. He said, the world's wealth is more valuable than circulation. Taking the people's anointing to gather the capital is probably not a peaceful governance. The method of making money and purchasing among the people is not feasible. When 10 big coins are not available, the method of salt banknotes cannot be changed repeatedly. I heard that the people's power is in ruins. Who can defend the country? Kai Jing was furious and reported to Emperor Hizong that he was making unrestrained suggestions and obstructing state affairs. Zhang Gong was sent to the Ministry of Civil Affairs for inspection and was deposed as the magistrate of Qingzhou, Shaanxi Province. Song Pan, the censor of Shaanxi Province, was the brother-in-law of Kai Yu, a bachelor. Tai Yin ordered Pan to impeach his private affairs, arrest his family members, train him to be imprisoned, remove Xiaozu, and flee to Lingbiao to avenge him. This is a posthumous matter and is not an issue. Besides, Simon King was at home. At the same time, he sent Han Daoguo and Qiao Dagu's nephew Chui Ben to take the cash and go to Gaoyang Guanhubu to register with Mr. Han. He stayed to ensure that the family ordered fruits, prepared a large banquet, and inquired about the arrival of Kai Yushi ship. One day, Lai Bo inquired and learned that he and the patrolling Song Yashi boat got up from the capital and went to Dongchang Prefecture to have people come to his home to report. Here Simon King and Jia Tixing got up. Lai Bao met Kai Yeshi on the boat from Dongchang Mansion and sent him off. Then, Simon King and Jia Tixing went 50 miles out of the suburbs to welcome them to Shinhaku, the place named Beijia Village. I first went to Kai Yushi's ship to pay homage to him and prepared to invite Song Ong. Kai Yeshi said, I know, I will definitely go with him to the mansion. At that time, Hujifu and Dongping, as well as in Hazhou and counties, there were military and health officials and students, monks and Taoist yin and yang, all with famous handbooks, waiting to welcome him. Zhou Xiaobai, Jingdu supervisor, and Zhang Tuanlian of the martial mansion all led their men and horses to follow them. They preached on clear feet, and all the chickens and dogs disappeared. He advocated and welcomed Song Shunjian into the procuratorate of Dongping Prefecture. Officials from all over the place met, submitted documents, and rested for the night. The next day, I saw a doorman coming to report, Master Kai, who patrols the salt, has come to pay his respects. The censor of the Song dynasty hurriedly went out to greet him. After reciting the etiquette, the guests and hosts sat down. After the tea was served, the Song Yeshi asked, when will Brother Nyan leave? Kai Yeshi said, the student will be here for a day or 2. He told him, there is an acquaintance of Simon Qianbing in King County, who was from a giant clan here. He is a prudent man, rich and courteous. He is also a disciple of Mr. Kai. He has a close acquaintance with the student. The student is about to go to his house to pay his respects. Song Yeshi asked, it's that Simon Jin, soldier? Kai Yeshi said, now he sees that he is punishing thousands of households in this department. Yesterday he saw Brother New Year. Song Yeshi ordered him to take a look at the notebook and saw the names of Simon King and Jia Tixin and said, this is it. Could it be that he is related to Zai Yunfeng? Kayeshi said. He is waiting outside now, and he wants the student Young to accompany Brother Nyan to his house. What do you think of Brother Nyan? Songyeshi said. I'm afraid it won't be easy for the students to get here for the first time. Brother Nyan, what are you afraid of, since we are both at Yunfeng? What's the harm in leaving? So he ordered the sedan chair to be set off together. One side will be passed out. When Simon King heard the news, he, Lai Bo and Ben rushed home on fast horses to prepare a banquet. A Jiaoshang colorful shed was set up at the front of the door, and musicians from the two courtyards played music called Haiyan opera and acrobatics. It turned out that the Song dynasty Yeshi had ordered all the servants to disperse, and only followed a few blue banner Qingdao officials. He and Kai Yeshi sat in two large sedans and carried double umbrellas, and went to Simon King's house together. At that time, there was a commotion in Dongbing Mansion and a big fuss in King County. They all said a high-ranking official from Ximen, who was also recognized by the inspector, came to his house to have a drink. Zhou Xiaobai, Jingdu supervisor, and Zhang Tuanlian were panicked, and each led the sentry men and horses are guarding the left and right streets to wait. Simon King, dressed in green clothes and wearing a crown, greeted him from afar. There were drums and music on both sides, and we got off the sedan at the front of the gate and went in. The Yeshi of the Song dynasty and the Yeshi of the Kai dynasty both wore bright red ZZ embroidered clothes, black gauze soap shoes, and red ribbons on the crown of the crane. They were holding two large fans. I saw 5 halls with high rolls of xiang curtains and rows of brocade screens. There are 2 dining tables in front, with high-top sugar cubes and dingsheng cluster plates, which are very neat. The 2 officials bowed and entered the hall to celebrate with Simon. Kai Yeshi ordered his family to give him the usual gifts: 2 ends of lake silk, a collection of assays for bags of bud tea, and 1 end of Duangxing stone. The censor of the Song dynasty only sent a single greeting card in Wanhong with the words, "Attendant Song Kiao Nine greets you." Simon King said to Simon King, "I've heard about the reputation for a long time. This student is here for the first time, and he hasn't enjoyed himself to the fullest yet, so he shouldn't disturb him. If he hadn't been invited by Brother Kai Nyan to worship, how could he be so lucky to receive you?" The panicked Simon King knelt down and worshipped, and said, "My servant is a military officer who is under the command of the Imperial Guard. Today I am fortunate to be visited by King Dynasty, and I am very proud of it." Then he bowed respectfully and bowed with great courtesy. The censor of the Song dynasty also returned the courtesy and recounted the etiquette. At present, Kai Yeshi asked Song Yeshi to stay on the left, while he was on the right, and Prime Minister Ximen Qingchui accompanied him. After the tea and soup were served, the flute and shao music filled the ears at the steps, and the drums were noisy and the music started to move. Simon King handed over wine and the banquet was over, and the cutting path was presented below. There are countless delicacies, peach blossoms in the soup, and the sound of singing and dancing, and the excitement before eating. The 2 attendants on the sedan chair each received 50 bottles of wine, 500 snacks, and 100 kilograms of cooked meat. Family members, officials, disciples, etc. are managed in separate rooms, so there is no need to go into details. Simon King's banquet that day also cost him 1,000 taels of gold and silver. The Yeshi of the Song dynasty was from Nanchang, Jiangxi province. He was impetuous. He only sat down for a short time and got up after listening to a few words of the play. The panicked Simon King stayed there again and again. Kai Yeshi said at this side, "Brother Nyan has nothing to do. If you just sit here for a while, why come back so quickly?" Song Yeshi said, "Brother Nyan is still sitting here, and the student wants to go to the procuratorate to deal with some official matters." Simon Qingzhao ordered his men to put the 2 table seats and gold and silverware in food boxes, totaling 20 loads, and called for servants to serve them. A large banquet from the Song Yeshi, 2 jars of wine, 2 rams, 2 envelopes of gold silk flowers, 2 horses of Duanhong, a pair of gold plates, 2 silver pots, 10 silver wine cups, and 2 silver folding bowls, a pair of tooth chopsticks. Kai Yushi's is also average. They all handed over their notices. Song Yeshi repeatedly said, "How dare my student take this?" He looked at Kai Yeshi. Kai Yeshi said, "Brother Nyan is here to govern. How can my student dare to take on the role of nature? Simon King said. It requires some subtle etiquette, but it's just a cup of wine. Why is it outside? When the two officials recommended it, next, the table and seats have been carried out the door. The imperial censor of the Song dynasty had no choice but to collect the invitations and thank Simon King, saying, I came here to see Jing today for the first time. I disturbed the banquet and paid tribute to you. How can I be responsible? I will never forget to repay you with my appearance. The censor said, Brother Nine is still sitting here. Let's say goodbye to the students. Then he made a speech and stood up. Simon King wanted to send him far away, but the Song Yeshi refused. So he urgently asked him to come back, raised his hands and left in a sedan chair. When Simon King came back, he accompanied Kai Yeshi, took off his crown and belt, and asked him to sit back in the rolling booth. Because he ordered all the musicians to be sent away, only the actors remained. Simon King ordered the tables to be rearranged, and rare fruits were placed on the table, and the two of them drank. Kai Yeshi said, Today you are sitting with my brother Song Nyan and you are arrogant. You are also talking about a grand banquet and many wine vessels. How can you be worthy of it? Simon King laughed and said, It's just a sign of fear. The name of Song Gongzu? Kai Yeshi said, The name is Song Yuan. The pine trees are the pine trees, and the original springs are the source. He also said, He failed to come again and again. He was praised by the students for the virtues of the four springs, and he was compared with the old gentleman. Well, he just came. He also knew that he was related to Yunfang. Simon King said, I think Mr. Zai has something to say to him. Kai Yeshi said, Although he is, there's nothing strange about Jiangxi people. It's just our first meeting today. So why don't you show off? He said with a smile. Simon King said, It's late today. Mr. Kai won't go back to the boat. Kai Yeshi said, I'm going to sail on the boat tomorrow morning. Simon King said, Please don't give up and stay overnight in the dormitory. Tomorrow the students will be in Changning Pavilion. Sending farewell, Kai Yeshi said, Thank you for your kindness. He told his men, Go back to the door and pick him up tomorrow morning. Everyone agreed to go, leaving only the family members to wait on him. When Simon King saw that all his men had gone, he came down from the banquet and called Diana, whispering in his ear, like this, Go and sit in the courtyard. Call Dong Zhaoer and Han Jinshuo, and carry them on a sedan chair at the back door. Come on. Don't let anyone know. Na Dian agreed. Simon King Fu came to the banquet and drank with Kai Yeshi. The children of Haiyan were singing beside them. Simon King Yin asked, How long did it take for the old gentleman to come home? Is the old lady of your house healthy? Kai Yeshi said, My mother is well here. The student is at home, and half a year has passed without realizing it. When he comes back to see the court, he doesn't want to be Cao Helan impeached all the 14 students of the same age who were in the history museum, and they were all appointed to foreign posts. The students were appointed to Zatai and Liang Hui to patrol Salt. Mr. Simon King asked, Where is Mr. N now? Kai Yeshi said, And Fengshan has been promoted to the head of the Ministry of Industry, and has gone to Jingzhou to collect imperial wood. After that, the disciples from Ximen Xingjia Haiyan came up to hand over the wine. Kai Yeshi ordered, You sing the proud fisherman and I will listen. His disciples were singing beside him when they saw Dian coming to ask Simon King to speak. Dian said, I asked Dong Jiar and Han Jinshuan to come to the back door and sit in the mother's room. Simon King said, You can tell me to carry the sedan over to the side. Dian said, It has been carried over. When Simon King walked to the upper room, the two singers kowtowed forward. Simon King said, I invite you two to come here today, and I will help you serve Father Kai at the foot of the mountain in the evening. He is now appointed as the patrol censor, so you must not neglect it. Help him with your heart, and I will reward you. Han Jinshuo, he smiled and said, Dad, you don't have to give orders. I always know. Simon King Yin said jokingly, The good thing about his southerner's business is Nanfang. You always have to twist your hands and feet. Dong Jiar said, Mother, listen here. Dad, you are leaning against the south wall. You are getting more and more mature. Simon King came forward with a smile. When they reached the head of the Yemen, they saw Lai Bo and Chen Jingji coming up with the unveiling notice. They looked at it with Simon King and said, Just now Kiao's father said that while Father Kai is free this time, he will tell Father Kai about this matter. After all, I'm afraid I'll be busy tomorrow. My brother-in-law wrote down my 2 names here. Simon King said, "Follow me." While Simon King was drinking, he mentioned, "I have something to do here, so I don't dare to do it." Kaiyoshi said, "Sequin, if you have anything to do, just give me orders, and all the students will take orders." Simon King said, "I left my parents last year. I collected some food and grass from the side and sent some salt. I hope that the salt will be distributed in Yangzhou." Guizi saw it. It read, "Businessman Lai Bao, Chue Ben, has $30,000 of old school Huai salt. I will beg for it early in the day." Kaiyoshi looked at it and smiled and said, "What's the matter?" He called Lai Bo and knelt down in front of him. He ordered, "Kowtow to your Lord Kai." Kaiyoshi said, "When I arrive in Yangzhou, you come to the Chaoyuan to see me. I am here a month earlier than other businessmen." Simon King said, "Old sir, I'm here to pay you a visit. 10 days early is enough." Kaiyoshi kept the original note in his sleeve. While the scholar was pouring wine next to him, the disciples sang again. After the song was finished, it was time to light the lamp. Kaiyoshi said, "It's been a long day. Let's stop drinking." As he got up to attend, the people on the left and right wanted to light the lamp. Simon King said, "Stop holding the candle, please come back. Mister, change your clothes." So he wandered around the garden for a while and went to the Jade Pavilion, where a banquet was set up with low curtains and bright silver candles. The high-end actor, Simon King, has been sent away. The book boy put away all the work in the studio and closed the corner door. He saw 2 singers dressed in makeup, standing at the foot of the stairs, holding candles forward, as if they were kowtowing for times. But see, the graceful face is covered with golden robes, and the fragrance does not move down the stairs. Sometimes water splashes and my skirt gets wet, just like returning from a rain trip in Wushan. When Kaiyoshi saw it, he was unable to advance and reluctant to retreat. Then he said, "Sequin, how can you be so kind? I'm afraid you can't do it." Simon King smiled and said, "How is it different from the past trip to Dongshan?" Kaiyoshi said, "I'm afraid I'm not as talented as Enshi, and you are as good as Wang Yujin." So he joined hands with the 2 prostitutes under the moon, and it seemed like Liu Ruan was entering the rooftop. After entering the pavilion, I saw that the cultural relics were still there, and when I asked for paper and pen, I wanted to leave an inscription and give it to him. Simon King ordered the boy to quickly brush the thick ink from the Dwangxing stone off the brocade paper. This Kaiyoshi was finally the top scholar. He picked up the pen in his hand and wrote without adding any details. His words were written like a dragon or a snake, and he wrote a poem under the light of a lamp. The poem says, "It has been less than half a year since the Jun family arrived, and the cultural relics in the mansion are still vague. After the rain, the book boy opens the medicine garden, and when the wind returns, the fairy walks on the flower bed. Why rush the clock when you are about to get drunk? It will remind you even more when the poem is finished. This departure adds new hope, and I don't know when I will come back again." After finishing writing, the teaching boy stuck it on the wall, thinking that it would be left behind for future generations, because he asked the 2 prostitutes, "What are your names?" One said, "The younger one's surname is Dong, and his given name is Jiaor. His name is Han Jinchuer." Kaiyoshi asked again, "Do you to have a number?" "Dong Jiaor, you are a little unknown prostitute. How about asking for a nickname?" Kaiyoshi said, "Don't be too modest." After asking again and again, Han Jinchuan Feng said, "My nickname is Yuking." Dong Jiar said, "The nickname is Weixian." Kaiyoshi was very happy when he heard the word Weixian, so he paid attention to it. The boy was ordered to take the chess table and place the chess pieces. Kaiyoshi and Dong Jiar played chess. Simon King accompanied him. Han Jinchuer handed him wine from a golden bottle, and the book boy sang. Kaiyoshi won a game of chess. Dong Jiar ate and gave Kaiyoshi another cup. Han Jinchuan also handed Simon King a drink here. After drinking, the 2 of them had sex again. Dong Jiar won and quickly passed a glass of wine to Kaiyoshi, while Simon King drank another glass with him. After drinking, Kaiyoshi said, "Sequin, it's late at night, and the alcohol is too strong." So he went outside and stood under the flowers. It was the middle of April and the moon was just rising. Simon King said, "Old sir, it's still early in the day. There is also Han Jinchuan. and I have never given him a glass of wine. Kaiyoshi said. Exactly. You call him, and I will drink a glass of wine under the flowers. So Han Jinchuan took it. Fill the big golden peach cup with a full cup and hand it over with your delicate hands. Dong Zhaoer was holding the fruit beside her. Kaiyoshi had eaten it, poured another cup, and rewarded Han Jinchuan because he said goodbye. Siquan, there is too much wine today, so let's take the high price. Then he shook hands with Simon King and said, the virtuous man is so kind and virtuous. I am so worried about it. If you are not of the same flesh and blood, why are you like this? The student is very concerned about the loan, and I have expressed it to Yunfeng in Beijing. If I make any progress in the future, I will never let Shangdi go. Simon King said, why do you think so? Seeing him holding Dong Zhaoer's hand, Han Jinchuan knew the situation and went back. When they got to the upper room, Yunyang asked, why didn't you sleep with him and came here? Han Jinchuan smiled and said, he left Dong Zhaoer behind. If I don't come, just do what you do there. After a long time, Simon King Yu reported the arrangement and came in, called Lai Xing'er and said, tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock, I will send boxes of food, wine, rice and snacks for dinner. I called the kitchen servant and followed him to Yangfu Temple outside the door to see you off. Mr. Kai, the two little boys agreed. Don't miss it, Lai Xing'er said. No one is here to watch the birthday of my second wife. Simon King said, let the chessboy do the shopping and let the cook cook it on the stove. After a while, Shatong and Diane took over their homework, asked for a pot of good tea, and went to the garden to rinse their mouths with Mr. Kai. The bed in the Jade Pavilion study room is fully furnished with quilts and pillows. Kaiyoshi saw that Dong Zhaoer was holding a Xiangfei bamboo mud and gold-faced fan, with an ink painting of the water of a Xianglan flat stream on it. Dong Zhaoer said, don't you dare bother me to give me a poem on it? Kaiyoshi said, I have no title, so I just pointed at you, Weixian. Then he picked up his pen under the lamp and wrote for words the sentences above. The small courtyard is silent, and a pool of moon soaks the window screen. It's not too late to meet each other by chance. The crepe myrtle man loves the crepe myrtle flower. After finishing writing, Dong Zhaoer quickly thanked her. The two packed up and went to bed. Shatong, Diane and his family were sleeping in the bright room. One night is not a problem. The next morning, Kaiyoshi gave Dong Zhaoer one tael of silver, wrapped it in a large red paper envelope, and went to the back to show it to Simon King. Simon King smiled and said, if you work as a civil servant, he has a lot of money for you. This is the sign. Yin Zhao Yunyang each gave him another 5 coins and sent them away through the back door. The bookboy scooped up the washing water and sent him to wash and dress. Simon King came out and ate porridge with him in the hall. His subordinates had already waited on the sedan and horses to pick him up, and they spoke to Simon King and thanked him again and again. Simon King said again, what the student said yesterday. When the old gentleman goes there and the student writes here, be sure to pay attention to 1 or 2. It is enough. Kaiyoshi said, don't talk about the virtuous man. Now, if a piece of paper comes with a high price, all the students will obey it. After saying this, the two of them got on their horses and followed them from left to right. After leaving the city, we went to Yangfu Temple and borrowed the help of the elder and abbot to set up a farewell party. With wine, Lai Xing'er and the cook had already arranged the tables and seats. 2 young actors, Li Ming and Wu Hua, played and sang. After a few cups, when he could not move from his seat, Kaiyoshi stood up, and his husband, horse, and sedan were waiting outside the 3rd door. Before leaving, Simon King talked about Mao King's case. We are students who knew each other. Because of the mistake, we went to Yangzhou to catch him in the case of Zheng Zhang, the old Grand Patrol. This matter has been settled. If I see Song Gong, I hope you can let's express gratitude to each other. Kaiyoshi said, it's okay. I saw Brother Song Nyan and asked him to bring it up and let him go. Simon King bowed to him again. The official heard that later Song Yashi went to Jinan, and he met Kaiyoshi on the boat in the river. When the public servant brought Mao King to Yangzhou, Kaiyoshi said, this is in the hands of Mr. Zhang and is not involved in the case. What do you care about him? Then he put him back. After falling down, and Tong went to Dongbing Mansion, but only 2 boatmen were left. Without waiting, and Tong was released. Exactly. Justice and human feelings are both right and wrong, and justice among human beings is the most difficult to deal with. If you follow the principles of justice and human feelings, you will suffer losses. If you follow the principles of justice, you will suffer losses from justice. On that day, Simon King was about to be sent to the ship, but Kaiyoshi refused and said, "You don't have to send me far away. I just want to say goodbye." Simon King said, "Wan Wei takes care, and I'll pay a small price to say hello." After saying that, Kaiyoshi said, "Get on the sedan and go." Simon King returned to the abbot and sat down. The elder came over and clasped his hands to ask questions and handed tea to Simon King in return. Seeing his white eyebrows, he asked, "How old is the elder?" The elder said, "The young monk is 470. Simon King said, "He is still in such good health." Inquiring about the Dharma's name, the elder said, "The young monk is in good health." "How many disciples are there?" The elder said, "There are more than 30 monks in this temple." Simon King said, "This temple is also large, but it is in need of repair." The elder said, "I am dissatisfied that my father said that this temple was originally built by Zhou Shu's father. He had no money and food to repair it during his long stay, so it was ruined." Simon King said, "It turns out to be the incense courtyard of Mr. Zhou in your garrison. I see his village is not far away. No matter what, please write a note of fate to your Lord Zhou, and I will help you with some charity." Dao Jian quickly clasped his hands and asked for thanks. Simon King told Dao Anar, "Take a tael of silver to thank the elder. Please excuse me today." Dao Jian said, "The young monk didn't know that my father was coming, so he didn't prepare a meal or offering." Simon King said, "I want to go back and change my clothes." Dao Jian quickly asked the young novice to open the door. Simon King changed his clothes when he saw that in the 5 large meditation halls behind the abbot, there were many wandering monks knocking on wooden fish and reading sutras. Simon King couldn't help but walked inside to watch. "I saw a monk with strange bones and strange appearance. He had a leopard head with sunken eyes and a purple liver color. He was wearing a chicken wax hoop and a flesh-red robe, with a wild mustache under his chin and the bare eaves on his head. He is an eccentric true arhat, a one-eyed dragon whose fire nature has not been eradicated. He sat still on the Zen bed, with his head hanging down, his neck tucked into his chest, and jade chopsticks flowing from his nostrils." Simon King said nothing and thought to himself, "This monk must be a capable monk. Otherwise, why would he be so different? Wait until I wake him up and ask him what he is doing." Then he shouted, "That monk! Who are you? Where is the person? Where is the eminent monk?" The first call did not answer. The second call was silent. The third call saw the monk straighten his body on the Zen bed, stretch his waist, and open one eye, jumped up. "Nodded to Simon King. Fen Lu responded, "What do you ask me?" The poor monk does not change his name when he is walking, and he does not change his surname when he is sitting. He is a waist-high peak in the dense pine forest of Tanju country in the western regions. The Hu monks who came down from Hanting Temple traveled here and gave medicine to help people. "Officer, what do you want me to say?" Simon King said, "Since you give medicine to help people, I ask you for some nourishing medicine. Do you have any?" Monk Hu said, "I have it. I have it." Then he said, "I'm inviting you home now. Will you go?" Monk Hu said, "I'll go. I'll go." Simon King said, "You just say go. That's all." The monk who stood up straight, took his iron pool stick from the bedside and leaned on it. He put his leather bag on his back, which contained the medicine gourds. He got down to the meditation hall and walked out to the west gate. King told Diane, "Belted donkeys and go home with the master first and wait while I come." Monk Hu said, "Officials don't have to do this. You just ride ahead." A poor monk doesn't take care of things either. He takes care of things before you do. Simon King said, "He must be a capable monk. Otherwise, how can you write such eloquent words?" "I'm afraid he's gone," so I told Diane, "At least follow him." So the elder who made the speech got on his horse, followed by his servants, and went straight into the city to come home. That day, April 17th, was not only Wang Liuer's birthday, but also Li Zhao's birthday at home, and there were guests having a drink. In the afternoon, there was no one at Wang Liuer's house, so he sent his brother Wang Jing to invite Simon King. He was ordered to look for Diana at the door of his house to talk to him. He didn't see Diane at the door, so he just stood there. After making an appointment for an hour, just as Yunyang and Li Jiar were sending Mother Li out to the courtyard to get on the sedan, she saw a boy of 15 or 16 years old wearing a bun and asked where he was from. The young boy walked up to me and knowingly kowtowed to Yunyang and said, "I am from the Han family, and I am looking for Brother An to talk to." Yunyang asked, "What about Brother An?" Ping An was beside him, and I'm afraid he knew it was Wang Lior. I'm afraid he said something wrong. So I pulled him aside and said to Yunyang, "He is a messenger from Mr. Han's family, who came to find Diana. I asked Mr. Han when he will come." He coaxed him away. Yunyang said nothing and went back to the back. Soon Dan and Hussein arrived at the door first. Their legs were sore from walking and they were covered in sweat. They were complaining. Mengku had a calm appearance and was not out of breath. Ping An sent Wang Jing to Wang Lior to invite his father and talk to him for a while. He said it to Diana again and said, "I don't want my aunt to see it. I picked it up for him a long time ago. Otherwise, the trap will be exposed. Come on, wait. If you ask me, you will say the same thing." Na Dian walked away with his eyes open and just opened his fan. "What's wrong with my leg today? It's such a short walk. There's no stopping on the way from the temple outside the gate. And I'm out of breath. My father hired me to ride on a donkey, but he didn't want to ride on it. It's okay to walk, but my legs are worn out and my feet are broken." Ping An said, "Why did Dad invite him to the house?" Dan said, "Who knows?" He asked him what kind of medicine he wanted. Just as he was talking, he heard the sound of shouting. When Simon King arrived home, he saw Mengku at the door and said, "My master is truly a god among men." As expected, he got here first. He made his way to sit in the hall inside. Simon King asked the bookboy to take the clothes, change his hat, and sit with him. After having tea, Mengku opened his eyes and saw that the hall was high and far away, with a deep character courtyard. On the door was a turtleback pattern shrimp beard woven green bead curtain, and the ground was covered with a lion rolling hydrangea plush thread blanket. In the middle is a table with dragonfly legs, a mantis belly, and soap-colored ripples. On the table is a Zumizuo marble screen with a tapestry ring. All around are loach heads and Nanmu targets with swollen muscles leaning against each other. The paintings hanging on the two walls are all purple bamboo poles with silk edges and agate axes. Exactly, painted drums made of leather hides vibrate the courtyard, and wine vessels are held on ebony spring platforms. After Mengku finished looking at it, Simon King asked, "Does my master need wine?" Mengku said, "The poor monk will have wine and meat." It was Li Zhao's birthday at that time, and there were all kinds of dishes in the kitchen. Set the table and just bring it up. First, there were 4 plates of fruits, 4 plates of side dishes, and 4 plates of wine, 1 plate of fish, 1 plate of marinated duck, 1 plate of black-skinned chicken, and 1 plate of dancing perch. He also brought 4 things to go with the meal: a plate of walnut meat stir-fried with scallops and green onions, a plate of finely chopped meat, a plate of fat lamb intestines, and a plate of smooth meat. The slippery loge. The next time I brought out another soup and rice dish, to meatballs in a bowl, sandwiching a strip of sausage roll meat called yalongzirsu soup, a large plate of cracked head high meat buns. Simon King let Hu Monk eat, and taught the piano boy to take the round-shaped hook-head chicken neck pot, open the refined red clay head from Yaozhou, pour out the yin-nourishing white wine one by one, and pour it into the hanging lotus pod. Inside the foot clock. Hand it to Mengku. Mengku put it into his mouth, sucked it in and drank it. Then 2 more items were added, a plate of thickly chopped horse intestines, and a plate of pickled goose necks. There were 2 more beautiful things to drink with Mengku, a plate of skinny grapes, and a plate of flowing red plums. Behind him was another large bowl of eel noodles and vegetable rolls, which he brought out together to scatter with Mengku. Immediately, Mengku was stunned and said, "This poor monk is drunk and well-fed. That's enough." Simon King asked his left and right men to take the wine table, because he asked him for the medicine for the room technique. Mengku said, "I have a medicine, which was made by the old gentleman and passed down by the Queen Mother. It is not passed down to others, and it is destined to be given to others. Since the officials are treating me favorably, I will give you a few pills." So he took out the gourd from the bag, poured out 100 pills, and ordered, "Just one pill at a time, no more. Give it with Shayu." He squeezed the gourd again, took 2 coins and a piece of pink paste, and instructions. You can only use 2 centimeters at a time, and don't use more. If it is swollen, pinch it with your hands, and just hit it on both legs to get it to the bottom. You can use it sparingly, and don't let it go to others. Simon King took it with both hands and said, "Let me ask you, what is the effect of this medicine?" Menghu said, "The shape is like a chicken egg and the color is like goose yellow." After Laojin refined it 3 times, Queen Mother passed on the recipe. It looks as light as dung from the outside, but as precious as a dungeon from the inside. What's more valuable than gold? What's more valuable than jade? As long as your waist is golden and your clothes are purple, your building may be high, your horse may be as light as your coat, your horse may be as talented as yours. This medicine can be placed in the palm of your hand, and you can float into the bridal chamber. The spring in the cave never grows old. The scenery outside is always fragrant. The Jade Mountain is not decayed, and the Danshan is full of light at night. You will be refreshed after one battle, and your energy will be strong in another battle, no matter how charming and pampered she is. With 12 beauties and red makeup, she will obey me and be as hard as a gun all night long. Taking it for a long time can widen the spleen and stomach, nourish the kidneys, and support yang. The beard will turn black for 100 days, and the body will be strong for 1,000 dynasties. Fixing teeth can improve eyesight, and it is only when young is born that it is hidden. If you don't believe me, mix the rice with the cat and taste it. For 3 days there will be no excess, and for 4 days the heat will be unbearable. The white cat will turn black and stop urinating and feces. It will lie down in the wind during the summer months and hide in the water in winter. If you still don't release it, all your hair will fall off. Taking 1.5 cents each time will make the yangshing stronger and stronger. If 10 women rest in one night, their essence will never be damaged. The old woman frowned, saying she couldn't be a prostitute. Sometimes my heart is tired and I withdraw my troops from the battlefield. Take a sip of cold water and the young will return to essence without being hurt. Enjoy the beautiful night and enjoy the orchid room full of spring scenery. Give it as a gift to a close friend, and it will always be a safe haven. After Simon King heard this, he wanted to ask him for a prescription, saying, "When you ask for a doctor, you must ask for a good doctor, and when you give medicine, you must pass on the prescription. My master does not teach me the prescription. If I don't use it after a long time, where can I find the master?" "Master, how much do you want?" Yin ordered Dian. "Get 20 taels of platinum from behind quickly." He handed it to Menghu and asked him for this prescription. The Hu monk smiled and said, "The poor monk is a monk. He travels all over the world. What is the use of this wealth? The officials will take it back as soon as possible." He was about to get up when Simon King saw that he refused to teach him the prescription. He said, "Master, you don't need money. I have a piece of cloth 5 feet long. Let's make some clothes with master." He ordered him to take it from left and right, and handed it to Menghu with both hands. Menghu just asked and thanked him. Before going out, he ordered, "Don't use it too much. Be careful, be careful." After saying this, he put his robe on his back, tied his crutches, and walked away. Exactly, the stick holds up the sun and the moon, and the mango shoes travel across Jujanju.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.